Hello again, I'm Ephraim225, and welcome to Hidden Star in 4 Seasons, the 16th Touhou game. I'm going to be commentating over 2 of my replays, and they are both speedruns of this game. There are in fact speedruns of mainline Touhou. I think when you look up speedruns of Touhou, you get just fan games, which is nice, but I think speedrunning the main series can be fun too. This game in particular, it has an interesting speedrun, and it's one I can actually do, so I'm gonna get into it. First, we're gonna go to the main game, and then we'll go to the extra stage. I need to explain a couple of mechanics first. In this game, you not only select a character to play as, you also select one of 4 sub-weapons. So for speedrunning, I'm going to use Reimu with the Summer sub-weapon. This is a little bit out of season because fall is coming soon, but this is recorded in summer, so I guess it works out. Let me load up my replay. I think this is the correct replay. It's the latest one with this setup. So here we go. I'm going to explain the mechanics once we actually start the game. 1, 2, 3, let's begin. So you're going to notice me grazing this hail of bullets, and this will generate what is called sub-weapon energy. As you collect sub-weapon energy, your sub-weapon gets stronger, and for the Summer sub-weapon, the shot itself is not very good, but I chose it for something called the release. What I just did there is I released the energy of my sub-weapon to create a sort of barrier that erases bullets and damages enemies. Now the Summer sub-weapon is good for this in particular because for all of the other sub-weapons, when you release, you use up all of your sub-weapon energy at once to create a bigger barrier. Or it's different for each sub-weapon, of course, but for Summer, you can release and you'll only use 1 level of sub-weapon, but the release is going to be the same amount of strength as it always is. And you'll notice that I'm not trying to kill this mini-boss. Well, I just did, but I was actually sitting above her in order to graze all of those bullets and get more sub-weapon energy. It doesn't really matter how fast you destroy a mini-boss in the main game because no matter how quickly you destroy them, the game is going to spawn filler enemies so that you do not finish the stage faster than the music. The music is always timed to the actual stage itself, so in order to stop you from doing it too quickly, it's going to spawn those filler enemies. And for the rest of the stage, it's just enemies spamming a bunch of bullets. I'm going to release on occasion in order to survive, basically. This sub-weapon is very good because releasing is basically a get-out-of-death-free card. If you're using it for pure survival, then it's really good. Just hit the button when you're about to die. Now, the reason it's good for the speedrun is because you can use releases multiple times in order to damage bosses, and you can rapid-fire it, so that's really good. And the reason I chose Reimu in particular for this is because you can fire your release and then immediately go into Reimu's bomb, which is, it goes away very quickly and allows you to fire another release or bomb once again. So I'm finishing these patterns in like 5 seconds apiece, and this is where the speed part of it comes from. Now I'm out of bombs here, so I'm just going to use regular releases to finish off this boss. So, that was actually very quick. The only way you can really speed up a Touhou game is the boss battles, so I did it very quickly, so you can see why this is a pretty good speed game, in my opinion. So Stage 2 doesn't really have much of interest that's going on, so I'm going to describe a couple of the other sub-weapons. While the world record speedrun for the main game uses Reimu Summer, as I am right now, not far behind, like maybe by a couple of seconds, is a speedrun that uses Aya with the Winter Shot. And the Winter Shot is interesting because it's actually bugged. You see, the Winter Shot, as you level it up, it creates stronger and stronger lasers. However, the game's programming forgot to remove the less powerful lasers in order to replace them with the more powerful ones. So as you level up Winter, you're just getting all of the lasers at once. Now, this will correct itself if you go into a cutscene or stop shooting. So if you get hit, you lose that effect, and if you go into a cutscene, you lose that effect. But you can also speedrun bosses very quickly with the Winter Shot, and the reason Aya is used because her bomb just facilitates grazing a lot in order to get all of that sub-weapon energy in order to level up the shot, so it's a very good combination. This game is kind of the start of where the games start letting you customize the playable characters to a certain degree. It's very interesting to try out different combinations of character with different sub-weapons. Now coming up is the mini-boss. This mini-boss in particular goes straight into the real boss battle after you defeat her, so defeating her as quickly as possible is actually worth your time. And you can actually, like, damage her while she's flying in like that, so I could have gone to the top of the screen and started releasing straight away. But no matter, you get a free bomb when you defeat her, and now it's going to go into the real boss battle. So, like with the first boss, I'm going to be releasing and then going to my bombs straight away and then releasing again. And for this first spell card, which is a named bullet pattern in case you don't know your Touhou, I did basically the same thing. I'm going to be doing it here as well. This boss also likes to fire a lot of bullets, so your bomb actually converts the bullets into more sub-weapon energy, so that's going to be worth a lot. For this one, I don't need a bomb because I can rapid fire my release right next to her. And then something interesting happens here. She goes into another spell card straight away, but she's actually vulnerable far sooner than you might expect, so you can release very quickly and just destroy that phase instantly. So that's pretty nice. There's going to be another pattern like that towards the end of the game as well, so watch out for that one. Stage 3 is also really simple. These fairies in particular, they spawn a lot of bullets. Something I haven't mentioned is that when you use your release to erase bullets, it actually adds those bullets to your point item value. You don't get point item value for grazing, which was basically the norm up until this game. This is the last game, in fact, where grazing gives you point item value. Score doesn't normally matter in a speedrun, but you actually get extra lives for scoring points in this game. That's actually rare in Touhou Project, only about 3 games do it. So, like, doing certain things to get more points can actually be worth it for safety reasons. Although, over the course of this run, I do get all of the extra lives you're allowed, except for the last one, which you get at 1 billion points. I can't really score 1 billion points, so I can't get that last extra life for that. And in particular, like, if you want to look up a world record score run of this game, the Autumn Shot actually lets you max out the amount of score you can get, because it creates a small little barrier that follows you around the screen, so it kind of becomes about ramming into as many bullets as possible, just very carefully. You definitely want to defeat this mini-boss without using a bomb, by the way, because if you use a bomb, then she'll only give you a bomb when you defeat her, but by not using a bomb, you get a 1-up. And again, filler enemies still get spawned in order to make sure the music keeps up with the stage, so speedrunning her is not really worth it, but it's definitely going to be worth destroying the boss as quickly as possible, so that's not far behind. Just a couple more sections where they just spam all these bullets at you, and Reimu actually makes the stage sections very safe, because this homing shot that she has is very powerful. It'll take out all of the enemies before they can create dangerous walls of bullets to fire at you. Alright, boss time. So this boss, you can actually afford to be a little bit risky with her, because just sitting next to her and releasing over and over can actually be worth it. Like, I only released twice on that particular pattern. Could have done it a third time, though. But I'm afraid of getting clipped by a bullet spawning right on top of me, so I did play it a little bit more safe in this run. Ah yes, and this pattern is worth a lot if you use your release to erase those lasers. It'll give you so many points. It's very easy to get past. And then we have this pattern, which, I had 1 bomb remaining. These patterns, by the way, when you defeat them without using a bomb, you get a bomb piece. So that's one way you can get extra resources as well. And that was a very quick pattern because it was very easy to just sit next to her and release over and over. I have 7 lives, and we are into Stage 4. So for the opening of Stage 4, this is a well-known trick you can do. You just go to the top of the screen, and these fairies can't even hit you except for the red bullets, which you can sidestep very easily, but be very careful because you don't want an enemy to spawn right on top of you. That would be very sad. And it does get a little bit hectic around here. That's what releasing is for. I can very easily get the sub-weapon energy that I spent back. That's the whole thing about this release system, is that it's just very easy to get all of your sub-weapon energy back, even after you spent it. Unless you're using the spring weapon, which is, the spring weapon creates a bigger and bigger burst depending on how many levels you put into it. But you don't really get all of your sub-weapon energy back when you use it, unless you time it very well. So it's not really a good sub-weapon. I think the other ones all have something interesting about them. Summer, you can see that I'm using it right now. I told you about the winter bug, and autumn just lets you get back all of your sub-weapon energy by releasing and then ramming into as many bullets as possible. This stage section doesn't really have a whole lot of note, which is why I'm talking about other things. So here we have the mini-boss. I'm going to be basically doing the same thing that I did multiple times throughout the first 3 stages, and I didn't have a bomb, so I had to take an intentional hit. Normally I don't like taking intentional hits, but if it means I get my bombs back quicker, then I'm going to do that. You also get a free bomb for defeating this mini-boss. And then we have the filler enemies. And then coming up we have an interesting section which will give you a free bomb if you do not use a bomb during the section. But, you know, it's actually really difficult on Lunatic to get through it without using a bomb, so probably going to have to use it. But that's fine. I still have 6 lives. This is so broken. And if you think this is broken, you haven't seen the extra stage. I'm gonna get to that in this video, too. Alright, just a couple more enemies left. And yes, this is on Lunatic level, by the way, in case you didn't notice. I think on the lower difficulty levels I would have more trouble because then there wouldn't be as many bullets to graze and or convert into point items. It's really interesting. This entire mechanic revolves around erasing bullets to get point item value, so naturally on the higher difficulty levels there's more point potential. It's not arbitrary like it normally is. Anyways, this is the first boss in the game where you can be perfectly safe by sitting on her head like this. I guess I should give a content warning for face sitting, because you can just sit up there and release onto her head. Yeah, that's something I probably could have worded a lot better. But yes, as you can see, you can blitz through her patterns by just sitting on top of her. But it is risky, so you do want to be a little bit careful, particularly from the second pattern onward, because now she's going to be moving around, and if she collides into you, then you take a hit, and that's not good. Also, this pattern is really annoying, so I just bomb it away. And then we have a pattern that I guess I could clear this fairly easily without doing anything weird, but, you know, for speed, use your bombs and your releases, and this one in particular. This is a pattern that I just don't think was designed with these mechanics in mind, because it's really easy to just release and erase these bullets. I mean, releasing actually doesn't void your spell card bonus, which is the bonus points you get for beating something without taking a hit or using a bomb. And we have another section which Reimu makes really, really easy, shooting these enemies down as soon as they appear with the homing shot. It reduces the amount of bullet spam, or at least it makes sure that the bullets aren't clumped together as much, because these bullets are actually being fired as soon as the enemy is destroyed. But as long as they're spread out like that instead of being clumped together, it's much, much easier to dodge, or even just release through them. This is a very annoying stage and with a very annoying boss, but with our strategies that I've been mentioning so far, should be nice and easy to get rid of them. So it's another stage section where I don't have a lot to say. As you can see, releasing lets you get through the wall of bullets that forms. There's probably a way to get through the wall without using a release. Or at least in theory there should be, otherwise the no release challenge wouldn't exist. And we have a very heavy laser spam section. That'll get you a lot of point item value, by the way. At least if you release at a high level, because the amount of point item you get is, the amount of point item value you get is actually controlled by the level of the sub-weapon when you release. So I'm down to level 1. So it's time to level up some more. This mini-boss will give you a free life. It's very embarrassing to get that life while having full lives, so you might want to intentionally take a hit against her if you have the maximum amount of lives. So just a couple more enemy spam sections, and then we are on to the boss. Now the boss is going to be interesting because there's actually 2 of them, but you only need to defeat 1 of them in order to pass on to the next pattern. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. Ah, there's still a little bit more. I guess this is a very lengthy stage, isn't it? Well, again, these bullets fire as soon as the enemy is destroyed. So, destroying the enemies as soon as they appear, rather than when they are clumped together, is very helpful. And I did intentionally take a hit so I would have a bomb, by the way, because the boss is coming up, and I want to have bombs for this. So as I said, only one of them needs to be destroyed in order to pass on to the next pattern. So I will use the bomb, and I focused on the one on the right in this pattern. The patterns that you get from these two actually depends on which one of them you decide to actually defeat. And I'm not sure if I destroyed the correct one as far as speedrunning goes, because I'm pretty sure I've heard it said that one of them has less life than the other, but I haven't actually noticed the difference. So for that pattern, I think I should have been focusing on the one on the left instead. But for either of them, that particular pattern is very easy to destroy by just releasing over and over. And an intentional hit is taken. Maybe I don't need a bomb here? Nah, I probably should have just used the bomb straight away. And again, release into this boss over and over. That one's a little bit more tricky because those stars are a little bit random, so you might clip into one of them by accident. And here we have lasers, which are just going to get converted into more sub-weapon ammo. And that did not finish her off, so I've got to use another bomb. But hey, that was very short. And we're on to the final stage. I've got 5 lives and 1 bomb, and it's here that I typically get worried about survival. By the way, you can just destroy these enemies the instant they appear by releasing onto them, and it's worth a lot of point item value as well. So this is where I actually get a little bit concerned about survival, because no matter how many lives I enter this stage with, the final pattern of the game is a nightmare. It actually changes depending on which sub-weapon you pick, and summer is, the one for summer is somewhat manageable. The one for winter would be awful, and the one for spring is mega awful. The best one is actually autumn. It's very easy to memorize that one. So these enemies each drop a bomb piece, so that'll make getting through this a little bit easier. Nothing like having a couple of extra resources to work with. One more, I think. No, there's probably 2 more, because I think they give you a full bomb here. No, that's all of them. Okay. It takes 5 bomb pieces to get a full bomb, by the way. Alright, final boss time. Most of the regular patterns are just, like, spamming a bunch of bullets, so, not really worth talking about. And most of the spell cards are also ones where you can just sit next to her and release over and over in order to clear through them very quickly. I really like the backgrounds for this fight, though. Very thematic. They go through the 4 seasons, and it's implied that you're, like, traveling through all the other stages during this one single boss battle. But yes, the spell cards are very vulnerable to just having you release on them over and over, so using a bomb on the regular patterns is very good, so you can get all of your sub-weapon ammo back. And here's another one where I just release next to her. It's getting boring explaining this over and over again, isn't it? Well, we're almost to the end. Just a couple more to go. And as I mentioned, even though it looks like I'm doing very well, I just got another extra life. I'm still very much worried about the final spell. And this spell card, by the way, is really annoying. I don't know why, it just is. So that's one where I do, in fact, have to use a bomb. I actually had to use one on a spell card. Ah, yes, and I did mention that there was a bit of an exploit that you could do on the final pattern, so I will be sure to point that out after this last spell card. Another one where they really just seem to want you to release while standing right next to her. I mean, you even convert all of those bolts into point items. Alright, so the final pattern is about to start, and if you time it exactly right, you can release and do a bunch of damage to her straight out of the gate. I just took out, like a chunk of her health, I think a third of her health, before the card even started. But, as you can see, this pattern is extremely annoying because they actually take away your sub-weapon and all of your power items. So you're fighting this with just your bare-bones basic shot, and you have to dodge all of this. It's an incredibly difficult spell. And as I mentioned, the one for spring is an absolute nightmare. You only see this pattern with summer. So, by bombing through it, you can basically create enough invincibility time for you to shoot her down. But you do want to be a little bit careful about your timing for the bomb, because it is nice to have her start firing while she is rising to the top of the screen rather than coming towards you, because when she's coming towards you, the bullets are very close and very dense. So at this point, I'm pretty much convinced that I can win at this point. I mean, with 2 lives remaining, it's probably a given. But every time you take a hit and every time you bomb, you're actually losing time because... Oh, I should stop the clock. Every time you bomb against that spell card, you're actually losing time because while a bomb is active, that final spell can't be damaged. So, you definitely want to be able to actually beat that without any bombs. So that was the main stage, and it's possible that the game was lagging, which is why it looks like I took 20 minutes. I think I got like an 18-minute time. When I'm recording, this game does tend to lag just a little bit. I really need a new computer, I guess. So now it's time for the extra stage, and this is going to be interesting because, unlike the main stages, you can't choose a sub-weapon for the extra stage. They force you to use a new, unique sub-weapon, which plays into the gimmick of the stage. And you're going to see what that is real quick. But this sub-weapon, when combined with Reimu, is actually incredibly broken. I don't think it's possible to lose this stage if you know what you're doing, which makes it one of the easiest extra stages in all of Touhou, and that's gotta sound just crazy, so I'm not gonna waste any more time. Let's begin. Extra stage. So we open with a couple of basic enemies. I'm going to graze those bullets to get more sub-weapon ammo. As you can see, the sub-weapon actually fires behind you instead of in front of you. The gimmick of the stage is that there's going to be enemies and bullets coming from behind you, which is probably very annoying because after so much experience with Touhou, you're very likely to orient your eyes towards looking at the top of the screen for where all the bullets are coming from. So having to deal with them coming from the sides or behind you is just the worst in this series. So some very basic enemies to start with. The homing shot is still good as usual. And I don't know why I was at the top of the screen for that wave of enemies, but if it looks like I'm, like, wasting a bunch of bombs on the stage sections, it really isn't. I don't need these for when the mini-boss comes. Oh, and by the way, there's no filler enemies in this stage, so destroying the mini-boss as soon as possible, actually very much advantageous. This is one short stage, by the way. So like with the Stage 4 boss, we're actually going to sit on top of this mini-boss and just release into her a bunch. Because with the position that I'm in, I've positioned myself so that not only is my... Oh, wait, what happened? Did I take a hit? But I got the spell card bonus anyways. I guess I took a hit there. That was actually really weird. I haven't watched this replay in forever, but as you saw... Okay, so I'm going to explain what just happened. If you sit on top of the boss in that way that I just did, you not only shoot her with your sub-weapon, you're also shooting her with a main shot because you're shooting inside of her hitbox, but you're not actually colliding with her yourself. And your homing shots, Reimu's homing shots, can also hit bosses this way, so this piles on a lot of damage, and that's in addition to releasing into them, because you can also do damage with your releases. So, that's a lot. That's a lot of damage, and it lets you get through the mini-boss very quickly, and even though I took that surprise hit, I don't think I lost that much time after all, so it's no biggie. So this section is where the enemies start firing at you from behind. No shame in using a bomb in order to clear them away, because you're still getting extra lives, and therefore more bombs for getting a lot of points. You're not going to get as many as in the main stages because you don't have as much time to collect all of those points, but getting your point item value up there so that you have more lives to work with, also valid. So we just have a couple more waves of enemies. And I like to sit in the center in order to release when they appear. It also lets me clear away those bullets, although for some reason I decided to try and do it without releasing. Probably so that I could start the boss battle with bombs. I think that's all of the enemies, so we're on to the boss, who is very vulnerable to the strategy that I used on the mini-bosses, so I'm going to sit on top of her, release into her, and she does like to fire a lot of bullets very close, so if you're not careful with your releases, you could get hit. Now, you don't want to release on the spell cards. I'm going to have to in order to clear away these bullets, but this boss in particular is invulnerable during releases and bombs. And also, since you're so close to her, you want to watch out, because after the spell card finishes, she will move upwards. You don't want her to collide into you. So this next pattern, she moves up and down for this one as well, so it's very important to make sure that you're not colliding into her. Although I collided into another bullet instead, it seems. It's always the stray last bullet that hits you, isn't it? So yes, you can't damage her while a bomb or release is out. So you want to make sure that you're not... you don't have to do that. Every time you bomb, you're losing time, so careful with that. Another very easy pattern, you want to make sure, as always, to get away from her before it finishes, because otherwise she'll just crash into you. Very embarrassing. Oh, that's what happened! How nice! But it doesn't lose you that much time. It just loses you a life, which means you're less safe. So I'm okay with it. See, you can lose as many lives as you want in this extra stage and still come out on top because it's really easy. Other characters can do this strategy as well, it's just they won't have the homing shot, so they're not going to be able to do as much damage, but the thing where you use your main shot and the sub-weapon at the same time, still a valid strat, no matter what character you're using. And for this pattern, this is an annoying one, because it's one of those ones where you have to circle around her, so Reimu, again, comes in handy here, because no matter where you are on the screen, the homing shot is still going to hit her. I'm not sure how the other characters do this, because they just can't hit her while they're on the sides of the screen. Right, so another basic pattern that you bomb away, those aren't invulnerable during a bomb. And this is one where I think I just use the release anyways in order to be safe. Ouch, that hurt. But if you do take a hit, then she's not invulnerable while you are invulnerable, so if you have iframes after losing a life, then you can still hit her with the strategy that I mentioned then. Alright, just a little bit left. Ah yes, this pattern is very odd. So the optimal strategy is to be above her, but you wind up being so close to all of these star bullets, they're ridiculously hard to dodge. The lasers are very interesting because the angle that they fire at depends on the angle between you and the boss, rather than between you and the actual laser, so that's very, very strange. Okay, this should be the last regular pattern. In fact, I know it is. Which means that after this very easy pattern, because, look at it, she just leaves herself vulnerable to this kind of thing. I do release once, so that does cost a little bit of time, but I should be able to finish it. And next up is the survival card. Every extra stage boss has a survival card towards the end. You're not supposed to be able to damage her during this, but what happened was, if you bomb or release on this boss's survival card, the game forgets to make her invulnerable again. This is the same problem that Touhou 17 had, and it's very odd. I have no idea how Zune let that slip through. But hey, that means you can speed through that survival card without having to actually play it. And then we have the final pattern, which, with Reimu, is actually really simple. I think I wind up having to use a bomb or a release here, because, come on, it gets really dense in these final phases. But I do actually like playing it. I think it's a fun final pattern. This is one of the easiest extra stages in all of Touhou. So that does make it a little bit more fun for me. I can pretend I'm good at these games. Nah, I'm just kidding. Now, I wish I could say I beat this without releasing, but I did release, and I think I released again. I died right at the end, which means I lose the spell card bonus, but no time was lost. So, there we go. Okay, so I didn't experience lag during any of that. Maybe it wasn't lagging in the main game run, but oh well. I've shown you Touhou 16 speedruns, the main game, the extra stage. You too can beat this game very easily by using these strats. So, that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Later, everyone.